1 listen, 1 answer, and 11 grammar and words。那老习惯，我们就根据和之前的看3个问题。第一，形容词我们又说到了名造词和最后词，在107课我们学过了后面加 er 和 es 来增加，看看它还有什么新的变化。第二呢，如何去使用 as 这个表达 ？OK， 那最后一个就如何用英文去表达埋某物分析中。那带着这3个问题构成。好，那我们上来先看标题啊，叫做 more and more 加形。more 和 more 这两个单词是我们在100知识或者109或者100知识刚刚学过，对吧？我们管它叫做 very much 的交集，叫做更多啊，然后呢 most 叫做最多。那我们当时我印象当中，在视频当中啊，就有说它其实还有一个功能性的意思，叫做更最，对吧？比如说我们看一下这个例子，说多音节形式前面加上 more 这个动词，表示更多的意思。那首先要解决一个问题，多音节。我们在107课讲过单点型，叫做我们怎么判断一个单词啊或者多音节啊，那个是你在学前面。您今年没有完全把它背下来，也问题不大，不必担心。OK，咱昨天呢，对于110课就给写了给自己讲解电子邮件的准备。那如果大家喜欢我们课程，欢迎大家关注订阅前面课公司，对吧？那接下来呢，我们讲下一个啊，原文给我多学了一个 expression I something on songs，也写大家翻章，讲进入接下来的文章，继续再讲。OK，咱昨天单词考试习惯课提出初级各位试问答，所以各位会陆续找一下 S 的 S 啊，当然你也可以说出来，讲要弄那些以后在机会上来就会忘啊，非常可以非常好，非常这些发言特别的重要，我希望稍微发言。来吧，没有任何的地方下面当然不行啊，就是你来小学。我上来自己喜欢的啊 ，I like this television very much, very much, thank you very much，十分感谢，表达对 thank you 的已经修饰了，对吧？那 I like you very much, thank you very much，我十分感谢，表达对 thank you 的已经修饰了，对吧？那 I like you very much，我十分喜欢 I like this television，我十分喜欢电视。How much does it cost？这个之前在卖房子，我记得是89那课我给大家讲过 How much 这个前提，对吧？那它值多少钱 ？Is the most expensive model？The most expensive 是我们在语法单词上一个视频当中刚刚讲过的语法点，对吧？最贵的模型，也就是在条件上 ，It costs 500 pounds，它值500磅。您看这句话 ，It costs 500 pounds，我在这说一个，我在这说一个，这个是对不对？对吧？这个条形背，原因是你把这句话100%的用于如何背的，对吧？这句话你背起来可以只看到1，还有2、3，你没拿4，对吧？比如说 It doesn't cost 500 pounds，你把一个句 Does it cost 500 pounds？你看这都是隐藏在这句话背后的生词排列里面，对吧？这些东西我们要靠思维转换，你讲干嘛 ？OK， 可第一 ，Mr. Free 又说了，说 That's too expensive for us，对于我们来说太贵了，100块钱不一定能买，我们没有办法支付所有的钱。This one is less expensive，更便宜一些，没有那么贵，对吧？你看这个，它这300块的这个300元，但是500元 less expensive，对吧？没那么贵了。It is only 300 pounds，仅只有300磅。But of course, 300了，便宜了。It is not as good as it could be。It's 就是300磅这个 expensive 嘛，就是500磅，300磅的这个不如500磅。哎，刚才咱们上一个是Mr. Free， I don't like this one，我不喜欢这个 model。The other models more expensive，另一个模型确实更贵，但是呢 ，But it's worth money，但是它值这个钱啊，贵所值啊，多花200、200钱。Can we buy it on buy something on installments？ 哎，分期付款，您就现在新学的这个表达叫 buy something on installments。Of course， yeah， 当然了 ，you can pay a deposit of 30 pounds。Of course, you can pay a deposit of 30 pounds, and then 14 pounds a month, and then 14 pounds a month of 3 years。10次。你可以支付一个30磅的定金，然后呢，我理解为首付吧 ，then 14 pounds a month， 然后1个月14磅，所以3年买个电视机3年还，对吧？听说 Do you like it？ 咱们看题，我现在你喜欢吗？宝宝说 I certainly do， 当然喜欢。But I don't like the price。Of course I do， 当然我喜欢了。But I don't like the price。You always want the best。You always want the best。We can't afford it。最好的那个，we can't afford it。但是我们又没办法支付得起，对吧 ？Sometimes 有的时候呢 ，you think you are a millionaire。那有的时候吧，你总感觉你自己是个富翁，买什么东西都买最贵的。You always want the best， 对吧？然后他老公会啊，我觉得他挺是那个娱乐的感觉，挺高分。他老公说 ，millionaires don't buy things on installments。百万富翁啊，不会买东西还分期付款。OK， very good。啊，文章说完了，我们再读一遍小习惯啊，您尽量不要看着我的问题，啊，我是听力，然后我会回答，你尽量可以看书，如果不看书，来了啊。第一题 ，What does Mr. Free think about the first television？ Too expensive for them. She. What does Mr. Free think about the first television? He likes it very much. He likes it very much. Next one. Is it one of the cheaper models?
What does Mr. Freeze think about the first television? He likes it very much.
Is it one of the cheaper models?
It's one of the cheaper models. Oh, no, it isn't.
Is there a more expensive model?
No, it isn't.
No, there isn't.
No, it is.
So, what does Mrs. Brave think about the price?
Too expensive.
It's too expensive. So, how much does the
The less expensive model cost? £300.
less expensive model cost?
£300.
So,
Is the less expensive model as good as the first one? No. It's not good.
is the less expensive model as good as the first one? No, it isn't. Of
No,
course.
it isn't.
Right? Next one. How can Mr.
How can Mr. Freeze buy the model he wants? Installment.
It's by
They
the model
can
he wants
installment.
or by the first model? He can buy it on
Oh.
or by the first model. He can buy it on installments. So, will the television be more expensive? Will the
television
can Mr. Freeze buy the model he wants or by the first model? He can buy it on installments. So, will the television be more expensive on installments?
Yes, it is. Yes, it will.
So, how much will it cost? 数学题。是吧？ It will cost 534. 来说434嘛。Next one. Does Mrs. Brave think this is a good idea?
No. Not really.
Really? 或者是 No, it isn't. 对吧 ？Okay. Next one, asking questions. 我给肯定句，一般疑问句，我给回问则。Okay. Let's. OK，注意回答，你尽量可以看书，如果不看书最好。来了啊。第一题。What does Mr. Brave think about the first television?
He likes it very much.
He likes it very much. Next one. Is it one of the cheaper models?
This one of the cheaper models. No, it isn't.
No, it isn't. Is there a more expensive model in the shop?
No, there isn't.
No, there isn't. So, what does Mrs. Brave think about the price?
He think this price is too expensive. It's too expensive for them.
It's too expensive. Next one. How much does the less expensive model cost?
£300.
£300. Next one. Is the less expensive model as good as the first one?
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't. Of course. Right. Next one. How can Mr. Freeze buy the model he wants or buy the first model?
They can installment.
He can buy
You
it
can
on
buy it
installments.
installments.
Will the television be
The television.
more expensive on installments?
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will. Next one. How much will it cost? 数学题了。
£534.
It will cost 534. 来多付3次了。Next one. Does Mrs. Brave think this is a good idea?
No, she doesn't. Not
No,
really.
really. 或者是 No, it isn't. 对吧 ？Okay. Next one, asking questions. 我给肯定句，一般疑问句，我给回问则。回问句好。一 Ask me if the television costs a lot. Does the television cost a lot? How much? 那就对 a lot 对吧 ？How much the
How much does the television cost?
television cost? Next one. Ask me if is the most expensive model in the shop.
Is it the most expensive model in the shop? Which is it? Which the most expensive? Which model? Is it the most expensive in the shop?
Which is the most
Which is the most expensive model in the shop?
expensive model in the shop? 你看这个地方的 which，它其实就是对主语 it 提问，就是它，你问的是谁吗？对吧？
Which is
它
the
就是它
most expensive?
Next one. Ask me if Mr. Freeze like this model.
Does Mr. Freeze like this model?
Why
Why
doesn't
doesn't Mr. Freeze like this model?
Why doesn't Mr. Freeze? Because it's not as good as the expensive one, right? 不如那个贵的好嘛。Next one. Ask me if he can pay £30 as a deposit.
Can he pay £30 as
Can he pay £30 as a deposit? How much?
How much can he pay as a
How much can he pay as a deposit? Next one. Ask me if millionaires buy things on installments.
does
Do millionaires buy things on installments?
do millionaires buy things on installments?
Do millionaires buy installments? How?
How do millionaires buy things?
How do millionaires buy things? 这个用 buy things on installments, right? Okay, very good. Recap. 文章当中并不是很难出现了我们之前上个视频刚刚讲过的语法，还如果说了加作业、预习书、公告，可以写文章。如果说了加作业、预习书、公告，也可以写文章、老习惯、书中手做、讲解一遍这些语法点。如果大家喜欢我们
that is older than has. Summer is warmer than winter, or warmer than winter. Summer is the worst of the 4 seasons. These cars are the most expensive in China. An aeroplane is faster than a train, and a train is faster than a car. So an aeroplane is the fastest of the 3. This is the worst coffee I have ever tried. You are no worse than I am at singing. I think I am the worst singer in the world. Your work is much better than it was last week. That book is interesting, but this book is very interesting. This book is more interesting than the one. That one. That book is less. Okay, this book is beautiful, but that book is very beautiful. That book is more beautiful than this one. This girl is less beautiful than that one. That armchair is comfortable, but this armchair is very comfortable. This armchair is more comfortable than that one. That armchair is less comfortable than that one, than this one. The girl is careless, but the boy very careless. The boy is more careless than the girl. The girl is less careless than the boy. The first question is difficult, but the second question is very difficult. The second question is more difficult than the first one. The first question is less than the second one. My son is hardworking. But my daughter is very hardworking. My daughter is more hardworking than my son. My son is less than my daughter. Hardworking than my son and my daughter. That dress is expensive. But this dress is very expensive. That dress is expensive, but this dress is more expensive than that dress. That dress is less expensive than this dress. The driver is careful. This driver is careful. But that's careful. This driver is less careful than that driver. The chair on the left, the chair in the middle. Comfortable for the chair on the left in the most comfortable for all the chairs. And the chair in the middle is the least comfortable. The chair on the left is the most comfortable of all the chairs, and the chair in the middle is the least comfortable. 最舒服和最不舒服的坐骑。我还真是。Look. His look. Drifting. Ever. The chair on the left, the chair in the middle. The chair on the left is the most comfortable of all the chairs, and the chair in the middle is the least comfortable. The picture is the most beautiful I've ever seen. And that picture is the last beautiful. This your book is the most interesting I've ever read, and this book is the least interesting. This engineer, that engineer, hard working, have ever met. This engineer is the most hardworking I've ever met, and that engineer is the least hardworking. This hairdresser, that hairdresser, careful. This hairdresser is the most careful I've person. The red car is the most expensive I've ever seen, and the black car is the least expensive. The French paper. The masses paper. Difficult of all. The French paper is the most difficult of all, and the masses paper is the least difficult. Is not that man important at all? This man, that man, important at all. Important of all. This man is the most important of all, and that man is the least important. Our room 30. Your room. Not as clean. Our room is dirtier than your room. adj.er. Our room is not as clean as your room. 我们的房间比你的房间脏，我们的房间不如你的房间干净。This watch expensive. That watch not as cheap. His husband is handwriting. This watch is expensive. Is more expensive than that watch. This watch is not as cheap as that watch. 这个表比那个表贵，这个表不如那个表便宜。His handwriting is worse than her handwriting. His handwriting is not as good as her handwriting. Good. Slow. Not as fast. Boat is slower than a car. Boat is not as fast as a car. Chinese CIGAR. Cigar.
Cigar 是名词。
Cigar. A cigar. Big. A cigarette. Cigar. Cigarette.
Cigarette 是名词，读音音 cigarette 为 cigarette。
Cigarette. Cigar. Cigarette. Cigarette. Oh, cigarette. Not very small.喜好，我也在家，拿到头发，来吧。 Shop. Older, boomer, warmest, most expensive, faster, faster, fastest, worst, 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 better. That girl is more beautiful than this girl. This girl is less beautiful than that girl. This armchair is more comfortable than that one. That armchair is less comfortable than this one. The boy is more careless than the girl. The girl is less careless than the boy. The second question is more difficult than the first one. And the first one. The first question is less. First question is less than the second one. My daughter is more hardworking than my son. My son is less hardworking than my daughter. This dress is more expensive than that one. That dress is less expensive than this one. That driver is more careful than this driver. This driver is less careful than that driver. Your book is the most interesting I've ever read, and his book is the least interesting. This engineer is the most hard-working I've ever met, and that engineer is the least hard-working. This hairdresser is the most careful though, and that hairdresser is the least careful. The red car is the most expensive I've ever seen, and the black car is the least expensive. The French paper is the most difficult of all, and the nicest paper is the least difficult. This man is the most important of all, and that man is the least important. This watch is more expensive than that watch. This watch is not as cheap as that watch. His handwriting is worse than her handwriting. His handwriting is not as good as her handwriting. A boat is slower than a car. A boat is not as fast as a car. A cigar is bigger than a cigarette. Cigarette. A cigar is not as small as a cigarette. This book is thinner than that book. This book is not as small as. This book is not as thick as that book. This question is more difficult than that question. This question is not as easy as that question.
Lesson 111.
Lesson 111.
The most expensive model.
The most expensive model.
Listen to the tape, then answer this question. Can Mr. Fred buy?
Can Mr. Fred buy the television on installment? How does it work?
The television on installments? How does it work? I like this television very much.
I like this television very much.
How much does it cost?
How much does it cost?
It's the most expensive model in the shop.
It's the most expensive model in the shop.
Costs £500.
It costs £500.
That's too expensive for us.
That's too expensive for us.
We can't afford all that money.
We can't afford all the money.
This model's less expensive than that one.
This model is less expensive than that one.
It's only £300.
It's only £300.
But of course, it's not as good as the expensive one.
But of course, it's not as good as the expensive one.
I don't like this model.
I don't like this model.
The other model's more expensive.
The other models more expensive,
But it's worth the money.
but it's worth the money.
Can we buy it on installments?
Can we buy on installments?
Of course, you can pay a deposit of £30.
Of course, you can pay a deposit of £30
And then £14 a month for 3 years.
and then £40 a month for 3 years.
Do you like it, dear?
Did you like it, dear?
I certainly did.
I certainly do,
But I don't like the price.
but I don't like that. But I don't like the price.
You always want the best.
You always want the best,
But we can't afford it.
but we can afford it.
Sometimes you think you're a millionaire.
Sometimes you think you are a millionaire.
Millionaires don't buy things on installment.
Millionaires don't buy things on installment.
Lesson 113. Lesson 111.
Lesson 111.
The most expensive model.
The most expensive model.
Listen to the tape, then answer this question. Can Mr. Fred buy
Can Mr. Fred buy
television on
the television on
installments?
installments? Can Mr. Fred buy the television on installments?
How does it work?
How does it work?
I like this television very much.
I like this television very
How
much.
much does it cost?
How much does it cost?
It's the most expensive one in the shop.
It's the most expensive model in the shop.
It costs £500.
It costs £500.
That's too expensive for us.
That's too expensive for us.
We can't afford all that.
We can't afford all that money. We can't afford all that money.
This model's less expensive than that one.
This model is less expensive than that one.
It's only £300.
It's only £300.
But of course, it's
But of course,
not as good as the expensive one.
it's not as good as the expensive one. It's not as good as the expensive one.
I don't like this model.
I don't like this model.
The other model's more expensive,
The other model is more expensive,
but it's worth the money.
but it's worth the money.
Can we buy it on installments?
Can we pay it on installments?
Of course.
Of course.
You can pay a deposit of £30
You can pay this deposit of £30
and then £14 a month for 3 years.
and then £14 a month for 3 years.
Do you like it, dear?
Do you like it, dear?
I certainly do.
I certainly do, but I don't like the
But
price.
I don't like the price. You always want the best, but we can't afford it.
You always want the best, but we can't afford it.
Sometimes you think you're a millionaire.
Sometimes you think you're a millionaire.
Millionaires don't buy things on installments.
Millionaires don't buy things on installments.
Lesson 111.
Lesson 111.
The most expensive one. Listen to.
The most expensive model.
Okay, then answer this question. Can Mr. Frith buy a television on installments? How does it work?
Can Mr. Fred buy the television on installments? How does it work?
I like this television very much.
I like this television very much.
How much does it cost?
How much does it cost?
It's the most expensive one in the shop.
It's the most expensive model in the shop. It costs £500. That's too expensive for us. We can't afford all that money. This model is less expensive than that one. It's only £300. But of course, it's not as good as the expensive one. I don't like this model. The other model is more expensive, but it's worth the money. Can we pay it on installments? Of course, you can pay a deposit of £30 and then £14 a month for 3 years. Do you like it, dear? I certainly do, but I don't like the price. You always want the best, but we can't afford it. Sometimes you think you are a millionaire. Millionaires don't buy things on installments. Can Mr. Fred buy the television on installments? How does it work? I like this television very much. How much does it cost? It's the cost expensive model in the shop. It costs £500. That's too expensive for us. We can't afford all that money. This model is less expensive than that one. It's only £300. But of course, it's not as good as the expensive one. I don't like this model. The other model is more expensive, but it's worth the money. Can we buy it on installments? Of course, you can pay a deposit of £30 and then £14 a month for 3 years. Do you like it, dear? Do you like it, dear? I certainly do, but I don't like the price. We always want the best, but we can't afford it. Sometimes you think you're a millionaire. Millionaires don't buy things on installments. Can Mr. Fred buy the television on installments? How does it work? I like the television very much. How much does it cost? It's the most expensive model. It's the most expensive model in the shop. It costs £500. That's too expensive for me. We can't afford all that money. This model is less expensive than that one. It's only £300. But of course, it's not as good as the expensive one. I don't like this model. The other model is more expensive, but it's worth the money. Can we buy it on installments? Of course. You can pay a deposit of £30 and then £14 a month for 3 years. Do you like it, dear? I certainly do, but I don't like the price. You always want the best, but we can't afford it. Sometimes you think you're a millionaire. Millionaires don't buy things on installments.
It costs £500.
It costs £500.
That's too expensive for us.
That's too expensive for us.
We can't afford all that money.
We can't afford all that money.
This model's less expensive than that one.
This model is less expensive than that one.
It's only £300.
It's only £300.
But of course, it's
But of course,
not as good as the expensive one.
it's not as good as.
But of course, it's not as good as the expensive one.
Oh, but of course, it's not as good. But of course, it's not as good as the expensive one. I don't like this model. The other models more expensive, but it's worth the money. Can we buy it on installments? Of course, you can pay a deposit of £30 and then £14 a month for 3 years. Do you like it, dear? I certainly do, but I don't like the price. You always want the best, but we can't afford it. Sometimes you think you are millionaires. Sometimes you think you're a millionaire. Millionaires don't buy things on installments. Can Mr. Fred buy the television on installments? How does it work? I like this television very much. How much does it cost? It's the most expensive model in the shop. It costs £500. That's too expensive for us. We can't afford all that money. This model is less expensive than that one. It's only £300. But of course, it's not as good as the. But of course, it's not good as the expensive one. I don't like this model. The other model is more expensive, but it's worth the money. Can we pay it on installments? Of course, you can pay a deposit of £30 and then £14 a month for 3 years. Do you like it, dear? I certainly do, but I don't like the price. You always want the best. But we can't afford it. Sometimes you think you're a millionaire. Millionaires don't buy things on installments. Can Mr. Fred buy the television on installments? How does it work? I like this television very much. How much does it cost? It's the most expensive model in the shop. It costs £500. That's too expensive for us. We can't afford all that money. This model is less expensive than that one. It's only £300. But of course, it's not as good as the expensive one. I don't like this model. The other model is more expensive, but it's worth the money. how we bet on installments. Of course, you can pay a deposit of £30 and then £14 a month for 3 years. Do you like it, dear? I certainly do, but I don't like the price. You always want the best, but we can't afford it. Sometimes you think you're a millionaires don't buy things on installments. Okay. Next.
Hello everyone, welcome to Capital Academy. This is Bill. Today we're going to learn the concept English 1, lesson 112, practices.
Practices.
本课就用英语练习哈，后面分开几个大项就会好。第一个 is the red apple sweeter than the green one。注意，您看，首先它是一般疑问句，其次 sweeter 是107个选对吧？回答
No, it isn't.
不是 ，the red apple is as sweet
as the green one.
哎，红色的这个
不如这个甜。
是同样的甜。OK， 接下来我们练的就是这两个点啊，一个是从词后边加 er， 当然也可能前面加 more or both， 然后呢 as 给它加 as。OK， 接下来不多说，就是从词后边加 er， 当然也可能前面加 more or both， 然后呢 as 给它加 as。OK， 接下来不多说了，各位大声张开嘴，好吧？来 ，next one。
Is the man shorter than the woman? No, he isn't.
The
man is as short as the woman.
Is the
television on the left more expensive than the television on the right?
On the left 在左边 ，on the right 在右边，25后觉得你自己想想。
No, it isn't.
The
The
television
television
on
on
the
the
right
left
is
is
not
not
as
as
expensive
expensive
as
as
the
the television on the right. Is the red pencil louder than the green one?
No, it
No, it
isn't.
isn't.
啊，高度来先比重的，对吧
The red pencil is as loud as the green
它
one.
们同样的不太好用，不锋利，对吧？没错。
Is the white handbag newer than the black one? No, it isn't. The white handbag is not as new as the black one.
白色的这个不如黑色的东西，对吧？
Is the policeman taller than the policewoman?
No,
No, he isn't.
The
policeman is tall
as tall as
as the policewoman.
Is the
And the woman on the left smarter
than the woman
on the right?
smarter, prettier? Okay, 一个单词啊。No,
No, she isn't.
The
The woman on the
left
left
is
is not as smart as the woman on the right.
Is
Is the boy older than the girl? No, he isn't. The boy is as old as the girl.
Is
Is the blonde is lighter than the blue one?
light, heavy, 沉，晚轻
No, it isn't. The blonde is not as light as the blue one.
Oh, is the white knife
Is the white knife sharper than the black one? No, it isn't. The white knife is as sharp as the black one.
OK， 那 recap 本课就主要练习了这两个东西，马上要读出来，听力会练习。如果读不一遍，您效果不好，您不妨来到视频前面，对吧？如果你会最好的是您可以反复练，一遍不够来2遍啊，2遍不够来3遍。OK， 好，预约书112课内容可以写了，本视频的听力会练习，对吧？我们在这地方，各位读过一遍以后，你可以反复听几遍去做练习，然后呢给自己讲解一遍，对吧？复习是这样。如果大家
Probably. Okay. Which boys are not? Which boys are as old as Mary, Pearl and Jill are as old as Mary. Which boys are not as old as Jim? Which girl is not as old as Carol? Boys are not as old as Jim. 不如 Jim 大 Jim 17谁不如 Jim 大 Scott William and Scott are not as old as Jim. Which girl is not as old as Carol? Carol should marry is not as old as Carol. Which boy is not as old as Scott? Which boy is not as old as Larry? Which boy is as old as Jill? Which girls are not as old as Sophie? not as heavy as William, is not Jill, is as Scott, is not Mary, is not is as Mary, is not Sophie, is not Jill, is not那是体重，那么是身高。Mary is as tall as Carol. Mary is not as tall as Mary. Mary is Carol. So he is William. Is Gio is Scott. Is Jim is Scott is Mary is as heavy as gold. Mary is not as good as Carol. Which boy is not Scott? Scott. 16. Which boy is not as good as? 不如他，就是16以下。Scott. William is not as old as Scott. Which boy is not old as? Which boy is not as old as Mary? Mary. Which boy? William is not as old as Mary. Which boy is as old as Jill? Jill. Which boy? Scott. Jill. William is not as old as Jill. Scott. As old as Jill. Which girls are not as old as Sophie? Mary. And Carol are not as old as Sophie. Which boy is as old as Sophie? Jill is as old as Sophie. Mary is as heavy as Mary. 45 kilogram. 45. William. Carol is not as heavy as Carol. 47，不如谁重？47，55。Mary。对。Scott and Jim. 自己物种 Mary 思路 Carol Jill Scott Jim Jill is as Jill with S Harry as为什么是2啊？对对对 ，Jill is as heavy as Jill和谁要跟我47 Carol What Scott Brew 谁不如57 Jim Harry as not heavy as Harry 55 Jim Harry as Mary 55 Scott Mary 60 55自己看45 Jill Scott and Jim Sophie is not as heavy as Jill 47 Mary Scott Mary tall is as tall as 165跟谁168跟谁Jim Carol 163 Mary Sophie 168 William Sophie Jill Scott Scott Mary William and Scott are not as old as Jim. Mary is not as old as Carol. William is not as old as Scott. William is not as old as Mary. Scott is as old as Jill. Mary, Carol, and Jill are not as old as Sophie and Jill. Jim is as old as Sophie. William, Mary, Scott, and or as heavy as Mary, Carol, Jill, Jim, Harold, Jim, Scott, Mary, Harold, Jill, Paul, Jim. Tall as Jim.